Bulobinaka, Namaste and good evening. You're watching Fiji Village Straight Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan. Our guest tonight on our show, and also if you're listening to our podcast, Fiji Village Straight Talk, is the opposition MP, Mr. Jone Usamate.
Thank you for the invite.
Greatly appreciate that you accepted our invitation, and of course we'll have more invites in relation to leaders coming on our show as we look at critical issues that matter to you, and at the same time the questions that you continue to send to us that we pose to the people who are making decisions in our country or who sit in Parliament after the elections. You have been in Parliament since 2014. After the 2014 general elections, you were in Parliament, in government, in the interim government before that. Now, as an independent MP, elected under the FijiFirst banner after the 2022 elections, but of course the party has been deregistered. What made you get into politics? What made you choose FijiFirst? Were you always aiming to get in? I know you came from an education background.
I did, yeah. Well, I never really thought about it. And in fact, I got in because I was invited to become a minister in 2012, when it was still a military government operation. And that's how, after a lot of thinking about it, and then decided to go with it. And once the elections came around, we sort of graduated straight into the FijiFirst and got into elections in 2014, managed to make it 2018, and then of course 2022. While the party won the most votes, more than any other party, but in the end, because of Sodelpa's choice, we ended up in opposition. So it is also good in a way that we try both sides of the coin, the opportunity to lead, and then have the opportunity to be on the other side and help government by being a loyal opposition, doing the work that opposition should be able to do. And with that, we brought in our understanding. In my case, 10 years of experience as a minister, my experience before that, I brought that into the work that I did in opposition. So I think it's, personally at my age now, 63, almost 70, great-great-grandfather now, a great-grandfather, I think it's good to bring that to bear in the remaining years that I have on this planet, to be able to contribute in this particular, in the best way possible. And if I can contribute in Parliament as an opposition member, I welcome that opportunity.
The FijiFirst party has disintegrated.
Yeah.
And the MPs...
It's basically been deregistered.
And the MPs as well, some have left.
Yeah.
What does this say for a party that ruled Fiji from 2014?
Oh, I don't know what it says, but it says if you look at the elections in the 2014, we had a big majority. In 2018, a very small majority. 2022, we still won the most number of seats from amongst the parties, but we did not have enough to get the people to vote us outright in. That in itself is a reflection of people's wishes. And at the end of the day, that's what democracy is all about. It's about what people want. And in that case, the numbers there showed that the number of votes, we didn't get it. So that perhaps to some extent is a reflection of what people expect from the new parties coming in and and what we had been able to deliver in the past. Now, of course, some people have come around and told us we regret the decisions that they made, but no. People say anything to your face. You never know what they mean or they don't mean. But the parties that have made the government, they made certain promises, and maybe people felt that those promises were going to come to fruition when they were in power. It is for the people then to judge whether those promises were delivered or not.
What are you doing as the opposition, knowing your own have opted to leave you?
Yeah, well, when the government, in particular, when the People's Alliance Party was trying to get the numbers to change the constitution, there was a strong, concerted effort to get a lot of us to support government.
Were you approached?
Of course, all of us were. The Honorable Moses Mbuli Tabo was very instrumental in that. And
was any deal being offered?
Of course.
What was being offered to you?
There was always that sort of discussion.
What kind of deal?
But you can see the impact of that once the G9 went. 3 of them became ministers, 2 became assistant ministers. They took up committee positions and so forth. Now they have 11 members on that side. And the remaining independent members of Parliament that remained in opposition, there were 15 in total. Out of that 15 in total, 2 of them have chosen to be independent on their own. The rest of us, what we refer to as the G13 bloc, we basically function as the basic opposition in Parliament. under the leadership of the Honorable Inyas Siratu. So there's 13 of us in that group. So we continue to function that way. There's G11 has basically joined government, and I think most of them, if I'm not mistaken, have indicated that they're going to apply for the
People's Alliance.
People's Alliance position. So the rest of us here in this group, one group of us out of the 13 that's remaining, are looking to form a new party.
From your perspective, where did the FijiFirst go wrong?
I'm not too sure. I think that is something, how it went wrong, people can argue over that.
I'm asking you.
Yeah, I think FijiFirst on its own, a lot of things that it stood for came out very well. It stood for equality. It stood for people being treated equally in this country. That message resonated with a lot of people. People felt safe and secure in the environment. But there were also a lot of complaints about things that people complained about. There's a lot of talk about freedom and all of these things about governance. But then, even today, those issues are still exist in our society today. That was probably, the reality is how people perceive it. When people perceive that something else is being offered might be better than what they have today, they might opt for that. Just like we have people that opt to go and work overseas. Some of them come back when what they were promised was not what happened in reality. So I think it's a matter of people's perceptions of what they were getting, what they wanted, and what they were promised.
You believe the party didn't do anything wrong to be not getting the support it once enjoyed?
I think over time you have to be able to evolve also as an entity. You cannot be stagnant at all times, because people's, if somebody asks you for a level of service and you provide it once, and he's never had that level of service before, it's big, aha! The next day you provide that same level of service, because he's become used to it, he expects something greater. The expectations always increase. And that will always happen for any political party in power. I think it's easier to win one election, fairly hard to win 2 elections, very, very hard to win 3 elections. Once you've been in power, people see your faults. And then when there's a promise of people coming in, or promises of what they will be able to deliver, people are likely to jump to that particular side.
It was, you brought up the issue about freedom. And, there were issues where people faced a number of things and they said, we want these laws to be changed. There was a cry for it. And the curtailing of that may have affected people's views over time. Were there any discussions within the party that we need to revisit some of these things?
There's always discussions on what laws need to be changed, and I think once you're given a ministerial assignment, it's your responsibility to look at the sector that you look at and come up with the recommended bills. And like all ministries do, those things are happening all the time by the different ministers looking after the particular sector that they look after. Because once you become a minister, your assignment is given by, I think it's by the president, with the laws that you're supposed to look at. So you focus on that area. The amendments, as Minister for Health, I brought up the Public Health Act, changes in other legislation that are under my purview, and you take it up. And that's a normal process of how governments govern. So I would, if there are things to do with information or media, those sort of things would have been addressed by the minister responsible, brought up to cabinet and discussed.
How was the party affected after Bainimarama and Aiyaz Sayed-Khaiyum left the party? Mr. Bainimarama brought majority of the votes and brought majority of the people into parliament with him.
Yeah, absolutely. Most of us got into parliament on the votes and his popularity, the votes that he got. Some of us got 1,000 votes, less than that. We basically got in on the number of votes that he got. So, of course, when he leaves, and with the number of votes that he got, there are a lot of people in Fiji that looked up to him for what he did, what he was able to stabilize the country from 2006 coming up to 2014. People, people were thankful to him for doing that, for all of the work and infrastructure development and so forth. So when he leaves, of course, there's a vacuum there. And first of all, the Honorable Attorney General did not come into Parliament because of the, what was it?
He chose to
the constitutional...
be part of the Constitutional Officers
Commission. Then when he left, we had to keep on going. The leader of the opposition was, the new leader of the opposition was appointed. We had to keep on. We had to keep on battling, dealing with the challenges as they came up. And if you're in government or if you're in opposition, that's what you do. Your circumstances are never going to be good all the time. You have to be able to deal with them and come up with the best possible outcome that you can for yourselves and also for Parliament and for the country.
Are the opposition MPs united?
Well, as I told you, 11 of them have gone across to the other side. 11 of them now aligned themselves with the government. 3 of those members have now become ministers. 2 have become assistant ministers. The others are members of committees and so forth, so they're very active in that sphere. 2 members of Parliament who are independent MPs have chosen to be on their own. The rest of us, the 13, we work together as a unified opposition bloc. The role of opposition is very important in a liberal democracy. You always have to have a group that will scrutinize anything that government does, to identify things where there's issues that they're not delivering as they're supposed to be delivering, and to speak truth to those matters, to shine light in areas where there's darkness so that it can become more apparent. Now, all of us as independent MPs, the 13 of us that are in the opposition, headed by Honorable Inya Serratu, we do that. The other 2 independent MPs who choose not to be part of our bloc, they still do that. We're still members of the opposition, so I don't know what you mean by fragmented. There's 11 that has gone. Basically, have gone across. That would never have happened if we were still a party.
You believe so?
Yes, you can't, because the Constitution does not allow it.
They would lose their seat.
Of course, yes. So that this is what has happened in Fiji in this thing is historic. I don't think all the laws were written thinking that a time such as this would come.
Yeah, even these group of 13, group of 9, group of 11.
Yeah, and you remember when we first started, when FijiFirst was deregistered, there were more independent MPs in Parliament than the members of any other party. There were 26 independent members. Sodelpa only had, PEP had only 21. That's historic. You've never had that sort of a situation in Fiji, I think in any Pacific Island country, where the number of independent MPs were more than the numbers of MP of any single party. So all of these things, I think all the laws did not, they did not estimate or forecast that sort of a situation. So we've been through some very historic times.
I think many people did not expect a party like FijiFirst to be deregistered.
Yeah, it happened.
So anything can happen.
Anything
a party
can happen.
Like you had 3 elections and you could not hold on to a party.
Yeah. Anything can
3
happen.
elections.
Anything can happen.
As an alternative government, which is no longer together as a party, do you think that you have failed as an effective opposition, as your first term in the opposition?
I think your term is a contradiction. How can I be an opposition if I'm an alternative government?
You are an alternative government, a government in waiting all the time.
Yeah, we are.
That's what your leader of opposition said, sitting right across me from here.
Yeah, okay, I take it in that context. The 13 of us that are still in this bloc, within this bloc we have 6 people that have served as ministers, 2 as assistant ministers. Other members of our bloc have served as chairpersons of committees, some of them since 2014, and all of the others have been members of committees from that particular point in time. So in having the expertise to be able to deliver the kind of work that is needed in cabinet, I think we have that capacity, but we don't have the numbers. So in terms of having the capacity in our numbers right now, out of the 13 that we have, I think we have that capacity, but we don't have the number of votes in the Parliament. That can only happen even if, if NFP or Sodelpa decided to come with us, we still would not have the majority, because the G11 on its own has got 11 seats, which is more than the 5 plus 3 from Sodelpa and from NFP. So I think that we have the capacity inside, but we don't have the numbers. That numbers can only be done during elections, and we are in the process of trying to register a party and so forth. And
we'll talk about that. Just going back to being an effective opposition, a lot of people are saying you are not as effective as you should be as an opposition. What's your comments to those people? Okay,
it depends what you mean by being an effective opposition. If it's being an effective opposition, it's saying no to everything that government says, without not on the basis of logic. They say no, 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 no. We don't do that, because we believe that it's where we believe that we can support government in the best interest of Fiji, we do that. But if we find that there are flaws in the arguments, we highlight that. And in fact, as an opposition, we have been able to, during our time, there have been 2 occasions in which the Prime Minister has listened to our pleas and changed things. One has been on the bill for the heritage in Levuka. The other one was something to do with climate change or things like that. So that's an effective opposition. In effective opposition, not just having the loudest voice and yelling.
Don't just oppose everything.
Yes, I mean that's I don't know. Do you think that's an effective opposition?
When you're on the FijiFirst side, when you're in government, when some people used to speak from the opposition side, it was said that the government side was being told, just keep yelling. So has that changed now?
I can't remember that. Nobody told me to keep yelling.
It has been said publicly.
Now, who said it?
Ashnil Sudhakar, when he left
maybe it
FijiFirst.
was told to him, it was not told to me.
So do you think, I'm just asking, has that changed?
I think the amount of yelling that people do continues. I mean, it's normal part of the parliamentary banter of how people go. People heckle each other and so forth. But I think that those two examples that I gave you are two examples of effective opposition. Because remember, if you're in parliament, whether you're on government or whether you're in opposition, you're both there for the people. And it's not, sometimes we're just in there, it seems that we're just in there to outshine each other. But at the end of the day, you carry out your role as government, we carry out our role as opposition, and when the two contrasting views mingle and you mix them all up together, a better outcome should come out for the benefit of the people. And that's what we need to be there for.
Mr. Usamate, I'm asking another question about on whether at any time, and in terms of succession planning, etc., because the FijiFirst eventually got deregistered, were there moves at any stage to change the succession planning in the FijiFirst, as it was seen that Aiyaz Sayed-Khaiyum was wielding too much power and influence, at times also being out of touch with majority of the voters, what was happening on the ground?
Wow, that's a big statement. But I think in succession planning, one of the things that you found in FijiFirst when we were there is that while we didn't have any deputy prime ministers, we've had, a lot of us had stints to act as prime ministers. I've had a stint. I think Honorable Merseni Wunwanga at that time, she has had stints. Others had stints to be able to do that. But of course, in terms of carrying out ministerial work, cabinet work, everybody's had that stint to be able to do it. A lot more. In this case, under this particular structure that they have now, it's the deputy prime ministers who have that. But in terms of the party itself, the structure of the FijiFirst party itself was that the party was concentrated in the powers of the two, what do they call them, founding members. So the party structure itself kept the power in the founding members. That's the way it was in the FijiFirst constitution. So that is one of the things that, so in terms of developing our capacity to be able to function in the carrying out our, what do you call them, executive roles as ministers, we were given the opportunity to act as prime minister over time.
But the longevity of the leadership planning, because it was limited to the founding members?
Well, that's at the
Do you
party,
think that limited the longevity of the party?
Well, that's a hypothetical question. Who knows? Nobody's ever done an assessment of it, but of course the way it was structured was that the founding members had the power in the party.
Mr. Usamate, before we go to the break, what do you have to say to the people now that you've been in government, as you said, from 2012 when you came in, from 2014 to 2022, and now that party banner gone, for which you stood for in the last elections, going into these almost uncharted waters now, what do you have to say to the people of Fiji?
In terms of?
In terms of you going into uncharted waters, not knowing what the future holds now.
Well, I think we are still bound by the laws that bind us. Today we had a ruling, there's been a ruling on the Constitution. We have those laws that bind us, that keep us in play. And the fact that we're still here after the FijiFirst was deregistered shows that the laws are trying to make sure that the members of parliament will still be in play, that parliament will still be in play. There is that stability in that sense. The loss of stability or the change has been that FijiFirst is no more. But the independent MPs are still there. We still carry out our role in parliament. If you look at the debate in parliament, it's still as vigorous as ever. And the issues that need to be brought up, the questions that are asked of government are still there. Those functions are still happening. So we still function as parliament, and we, the members that are in the opposition, we will continue. Those that intend to join new parties in the future, they will continue to contest elections and move this forward.
You're watching Fiji Village Trade Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan. We'll be back after this break. Laudala Beach, a lot of people in Fiji did not know what was methamphetamine. And what we are picking up on, people are saying it's readily available. Just the issue in relation to General Secretary, was that a tactical move that he ejected himself from Parliament?
Personally, it's unfortunate.
How are you dealing with those police officers who may be allegedly involved in this?
Vijay, no one is above the law.
We assure you that we will be having police officers around.
As a result of that bad policy, by the end of this month, we would have lost close to about $70 million in government revenue.
Bula Vinaka, I am Vijay Narayan. This is Fiji Village Straight Talk.
Fiji Village Straight Talk with Vijay Narayan. Watch it live on the Fiji Village Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Welcome back. You're watching Fiji Village Straight Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan. We have our guest tonight, Opposition MP, Mr. Jone Usamate. Mr. Usamate, people have been raising issues, and as I've said, this show, we look at all the different issues that people raise and who they would like to see as a guest on our show. Some people have said in their areas they're still waiting for consistent water supply, proper roads, reliable power. They continue to get power shutdowns almost every week. In some areas, the water is not running in their taps for days, for hours in a particular day. These are not new problems, they say. They've been there for decades for them. You have been a minister since 2014 and of course an opposition MP since 2022. Why are we still stuck here in this situation in 2025?
Wow, that's a good question. I think for a lot of the infrastructure projects, I'll give an example, for instance, for water. When the big problem with water that we have now. The big problem is the non-revenue water, which is the leakage, which is around
almost 50%.
Almost 50%. That means that most of the water that you put into the system gets
in
stolen
the ground,
or lost or whatever and disappears. So that's a legacy of the old infrastructure that you have, the old pipes. But when you have water systems, the other problem that we have, which is exacerbated this, is the movement of people away from areas where there's low population density into areas where there's already high population density. So when your population density increases, there's more requests for new infrastructure to go to those people. Then you have the challenge of diverting your resources to deal with the new connections that you need to make, or use it on the old infrastructure that needs to be replaced. That's one of the challenges that you have. Previous government had the challenge to do this. One of the biggest projects that we put in was the Viria water supply. Viria put in 40 million liters per day, so would have enough water to be able to provide this general area from Nosori all the way down to Lami. But it's the distribution of this that has been a challenge. And even now, as you can see, this current government, they're putting another line down from, where's that place, Waila, up that road, Princess Road, to feed the
Savani coming this way, the higher areas of
Tadiwa. All of those areas you always have. So I think in a lot of cases there is enough water being produced, but it's getting it to the people in terms of the reservoirs, in terms of the pipes and so forth. It's a problem that we were working on. We had made considerable progress in doing that, and this government has to continue doing it. Now, when they were in opposition, they obviously felt that we just come in, bang, 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 and everything will be solved. When they come in, they see the systemic issues that are there, the long-standing issues that have been built over decades, which you cannot change overnight. As a government, when we were in place, we were working on that. We had the plans in place. The 2050 water strategy that they're using now, which is a good strategy, was being developed during the time that I was still a minister. So there's a lot of systemic issues, and there are a lot of competing issues, and there's competition for resources. A lot of times you have to be able to find resources from outside to fund some of the major infrastructure projects you're doing. But to remember also that during the Bainimarama government era and the FijiFirst, the investment in infrastructure was very high in terms of roads, all of these things. The 4-lane roads, all of these, the water systems, the rural electrification. We removed a lot of the barriers to, people used to pay 10% of the cost of bringing the FEA poles. We removed all that. So when you remove these barriers, of course the demand increases because what was a barrier for people to get electricity before, having to pay the deposit. Now you remove it, you need to be able to provide the power to everybody. So there's more demand. And the amount of resources that you have is still at the same level. So there's a challenge in all this. So I think government comes to realize, the current government, that it's not as easy as they thought it was going to be. It's a difficult challenge, but once you're sitting there, one of the habits that they always have, they blame us. But they have been in power now for 3 years. You can't keep on looking backwards. You've got to look forward. If you keep looking backwards, you might crash into the tree straight in front of you.
You've been in cabinet before.
Yeah, I have.
When you hear people say Fiji's leaders can make speeches but can't fix water issues, a basic need. It took your government 16 years. Do you think enough was done? We still have pipes leaking, as you confirmed. Almost 50% of the water is going into the ground. Infrastructure is barely keeping up through a band-aid solution when we go to Water Authority of Fiji. We know the Viria project has provided relief to, I think, the Suvarnasori corridor, no doubt about that. They don't have as many disruptions. Just the magnitude of it, do you think that, well, it couldn't be done in 16 years? How long would it take from your assessment?
I think when they were developing their 2050 strategy, in particular for water, it was looking all this. But you know, in water, it's not just the delivery of water. The other side is the wastewater. There's been a lot of, all of our wastewater places now, you know, the design capacity is like this. What they're doing is like that. So it's much higher than it's supposed to be doing. And that's not a problem that just exists today. But the problems are there, you keep improving, but you see, what are the metrics that you use to measure how well the performance has taken place? In water, the metric should be the percentage of your population that has access to clean water. If that has increased from 60% to 80%, that's an improvement. You get my point, eh?
And what happens to the 20%? You can't leave,
but at least it's improved.
You can't leave anyone behind.
It's improved up to 80%.
I do understand.
And you're not going to change it overnight, just to exactly go to 100%. So I think during the time of the Bainimarama government and FijiFirst, there were substantive improvements in the delivery of that water. It wasn't just Viria. We did the Mau. We took the water across from Ovalau to Moturiki. We took across the water across from Vanuatu to Ngauloa Island. We took underwater across to what's that other place in Ra, Malaki, electricity under the water. A lot of these investments have taken place in terms of electricity, power, roads, Namboa, Lundreketi, all of these major roads. Subanandi, the road going across to Ndenarau, those back roads, those are huge. And as you deliver more and more service, people's expectation of what they want from government also increases. So I don't think you'll find any government in the world, any government or any country in the world where people are continually 100% satisfied with the infrastructure that they have. It's always going to be a challenge. The challenge for us, I think when we were in government, we made substantive inroads into addressing this. And once you come into government, you need to take it to the next level rather than just sit there and complain about what happened in the past. Your job is to stand on the shoulders of those who were there before you and move it forward.
Water is a basic need of life. And then as I'll go back to that point of infrastructure, in terms of almost, I think it's 46% to 50% water,
47
which
50.
is lost before it reaches the taps. That means the cost of getting water produced and the water reaching the people, already almost half not reaching the people. We haven't been able to fix that, and it's not a quick fix because you cannot just shut down the infrastructure. From your perspective, you've been a Minister for Infrastructure too. What can be done now for people watching or listening out there? What can you tell them? What needs to be done, and by when will this be rectified?
Yeah, you need to have a plan to be able to replace your out-of-date infrastructure. And that's not something that you can do quickly. It has to be spaced out over time. It requires funding. Because if you take all your funding and put it into water, what happens to roads? What happens to health? What happens to education? All of these sectors also need money. So running a country is always a balancing act. Sometimes you say, okay, for these few years, we'll put some more emphasis in water, reduce a bit on roads or electricity or some other sectors. And over time, you have to do that. That's why having a long-term strategy like the 2050 strategy that we had begun developing during the time that I was still a minister is the approach that you have. Because you have to balance these long-term things and at the same time, address the small fires that keep popping up every day. All those things, you have to manage both of those sides of the equation.
On health, you've been a former Minister for Health. We've
Yeah.
got hospitals still running short of beds. CWM Maternity Hospital, the extension still not done. Shortage of medicine, the shortage of basic equipment. It has been said that this is because of the dilapidated infrastructure and neglect from the past. What do you have to say to that?
Well, yeah, medicine is still running short. This government came in promising that, hey, we're going to come in and all of a sudden these things will be fixed. They promised the same thing about the state of the hospitals, the operation theaters, the knobs on the doors and all of those things. Those things are still there. So what does it tell you? There's no quick fix. Something that has to be done systematically. We have to deal. No, in the hospitals, these light bulbs disappear. Even the starters for the tube lights, they disappear. Cutlery disappears. That happens all the time. And you make a repair to the toilet, within 1 month or 2 months, it's broken again. These are challenges that you meet every day. So it's what I was saying, that when you are government, you do the best that you possibly can. You do your planning, you do your implementation, you do your review, and you keep improving. And when you come into government, you should not be complaining. You look at what has been done, you look at the flaws of what the previous government had done, you improve it. You build, you keep on building upon it. And I think it's very difficult to be able to meet everybody's requirements all the time. Something that's very difficult to be able to achieve. And you will know that too, even from radio. You'll understand how people react in these things.
The Deputy Prime Minister, Professor Biman Prasad, always says that the dilapidated infrastructure was left by the previous government.
Yeah.
Your government.
That's what he always says. He's got nothing
and you
else
always
that he
say
can
that is just a whole lot of hogwash. What do you have to say to the
I
people?
tell him that's a whole lot of hogwash. He should look at the amount of investment in. It's very easy just to say things without looking at the facts and figures, looking at the kilometers of roads, looking at the number of operating theatres that were done, the number of water projects that were done, the number of new connections that were done in terms of water, the number of people that the number of roads that went up, for instance, to the interior of Netasiri and Namosi, and places where the electricity poles didn't go before. You can quantify all those things and see the investment that was done.
You're about to go set up a new party. There's still shortage of beds,
Yeah.
shortage of medicine, shortage of basic equipment. What will you do? What can be done?
I think we will have to, at the moment,
It's not a quick fix, as you said.
Not a quick fix. Absolutely, it's not a quick fix. One of the good things that we've had in Fiji is that the Australian government has been supporting the health sector, for instance, in getting systems and processes right. That's what you need to do. If you have the right systems and processes, they will help you to be able to address the problem. You need to have good plans. You also have to have good people to run it. This is a very important thing, good people. And in order to do that, your systems for getting good people in place must be, based on merit. If you're going to have systems that deviate from the use of merit as a way of getting the right people on board, you're going to keep having the problems over and over again. But then you need long-term solutions. That's why the 2050 water strategy, strategic development plans over 10, 15 years or 5 years are good because it helps you to map out systems for the future.
The strategy is as good as measuring its deliverables. Do you think that should be done a more microscopic way?
What do you mean?
Deliverables. You can have a good strategic plan, but you need to measure the deliverables at the end of the day.
Yeah, for every strategic plan, you have to have your targets, and you have to have the indicators of how well you performed in each of those areas. Then you measure your indicators. You can have a problem if you use the wrong indicator, which is, I think, I've mentioned for this current strategic development plan. When we talked about it, there was a workshop at USP. I pointed out that in some of those areas, you look at what is written in the strategic plan about one particular sector, huge thing. When you look at the indicators, sometimes there's a mismatch between what they're measuring as a measure of performance and what it is they're trying to improve. And of course, when you're going to, the people that are going to work that plan, they'll focus on what's in the indicator. They'll focus on meeting what is required to make that indicator successful, or achieve the targets in that indicator. But if the indicator itself is not a good reflection of what you're trying to do, then you're working on the wrong thing. You get what I'm talking about?
I do get that, yes.
Yeah. So
I just want things to work so that the people can get the service they want.
yeah, all of us want that.
That's right. Now, critics have pointed out that ministers often went overseas for treatment, while ordinary Fijians had no choice but to queue up at hospitals with lack of special treatment, lack of beds, lack of medicine. Do you see that as a failure of leadership and forward planning?
Yeah, well, I think all of us would like as many of our people as possible to be able to access that tertiary care, that more specialized sort of work-in programs in Fiji at low charge. And I think that's what Aspen was supposed to do, or is supposed to be providing for us. On the other hand, if people have the resources, they are at liberty to go overseas. But the flip side of that, of course, are local people that don't have the resources cannot be able to access the kind of service. All of us in this country, and I think for the health sector in particular, it's the sector as a whole, the development of the private hospitals and the level of care that they can provide here in Suva and Nandi, it's improved over time. You've got to have a plan that makes the whole sector improve. At the moment, you have necessary private hospital, these other ones up and down the road there, so that whole sector is beginning to improve. And when that sector improves also, it gives us ability to get into these retirement homes. When people retire, when you build retirement homes, they need access to good hospitals. So the development of that sector is not something that's going to happen overnight. I'm glad to see the developments they're talking about now. I think there's one specialty hospital that the Indian government is looking to build.
In Nasino.
And there's, I think there's talk about Valelevu Health Center. There's talk about a few others. I think I can't get it on by. So you need to have that phased approach to be able to...
As long as there's coverage for all, because not everybody can go to the private hospitals.
Of course. Yeah, and I think the level of service, the kind of thing that they talked about at Aspen, for some of those things to be available to locals. Means testing, that means that those that have less money, they get it for free. I'm not sure how well that is working.
Education was once Fiji's strength, but now we're hearing constant complaints about failing standards, overworked teachers, graduates not ready for the workforce. We've seen some books still from the 1980s still being taught before the digital age, etc. And I'm just asking why no concerted effort was made to ensure we stayed up with the times so that our younger generation was learning new things and staying on top of things with the rest of the world?
It's a good question. Every government that comes in tries to address these issues. I think during that time that we were in place, there was changes to curriculum and so forth. During that time, there was establishment of the Higher Education Commission for Fiji, the establishment of the National Qualifications Framework to make sure that all our institutes of higher education are delivering the right qualifications. Because if you have the wrong qualifications coming out and it doesn't meet the demands of the sectors which employ people, then those qualifications are useless. So my own belief is that in terms of the institutions that are required to make sure that money, in particular for tertiary education, we do have the institutions. We have the Higher Education Commission of Fiji, I think it's called now. The money is given to it, and it has specific criteria by which it allocates money to the institutes of education learning. If that functions well, then it should be directing money at the right kind of programs. If it is not working well, that means maybe there's something wrong with that system, wrong people in place, or wrong processes, or wrong criteria being used, or the system is being tampered with. Or there can be certain elements of that system that are not working well. That one, I think, needs to work well. I think we also have a problem at the bottom end. Now, in terms of early childhood education, there's been a lot of development in that. In the past, the kindergarten teachers, they were their pay is very low, pay has gone up. I think there's now qualification requirements for them. So there's been a lot of emphasis in these things. But when you look now at the kids coming out of university, and some of them can't write letters. I don't know, the English is very, very bad. I think about the older generation that did not have that level of education, but the ability to articulate and to transfer things from a tacit understanding of something to explicit in terms of writing down, that level of understanding is completely deteriorated. And I think now with all this AI, where people are just using AI instead of using their own minds, relying on the minds of a machine to be able to do that, has deteriorated further people's ability. So these are great challenges in terms of it. And you know, after the 2022 COVID, we had massive expulsion, not expulsion, teachers left. So there's serious shortages now, teachers, physics and maths. I think physical education, few other areas, big shortages of teachers. We have set up the bodies, but we have this big lack. And the agencies, these countries, Australia and New Zealand, they pull our teachers. I think now kindergarten teachers are going, specialist teachers in secondary schools are going. And you find out people all over. So people are leaving, but we can't just cry about it. We just have to make sure that we can keep producing the numbers that we need to be able to deliver that service.
It's just the reality of the situation. My concern is that, and you rightly pointed out, we've got students who are in high school and eventually who go to tertiary school, but even high school, and some are at year 9, an assessment was done, some cannot write properly, some cannot read properly. And the issue is also, then the question has been asked, and I want to ask you, that if you continue to progress people, pass or fail, and the first real external exam that they hit is at year 12, do you think that system is working? You've been at TPAF before.
No, and I've been a school teacher
and
too.
FNU and a school teacher. So the previous government decided that you should keep progressing a child irrespective of passing or failing. And eventually they hit, boom, year 12 with an external exam. And then you see the failure rate there. You said it hasn't worked. What is the ideal situation? Where did we go wrong?
The ideal situation, obviously, if a person has to be, when he comes out of a particular level of education, a class or a form, that he needs to acquire certain competencies, that you make sure that he can acquire it. But of course, people's rate of ability to be able to learn is not always the same. Right? Some people are very gifted academically, others are not. For those that don't have that academic ability, you must have remedial programs to make use of them. If not, if their line of being able to excel is not academically, find other things that they're good at. And there are different kinds of intelligence that you can have: sports, music, arts, and all of these things. Maybe there's not opportunities to be able to make use of all those abilities. Who would think that a few years ago, a person that played rugby can get, $200,000, $300,000 a year? So maybe we need to look at it a bit more holistically. What I'm talking about is nothing new. Everybody knows this. Previous government, this government is obviously working on it. We need to be able to do that so that we can develop people to the level in which they can do things for their own livelihoods in the future.
And we have a great skilled labor shortage, so it doesn't mean that everybody needs to go into white-collar jobs.
Huge skilled labor shortage. In this country now, if you walk down to this John Hunt building there, you look at that John Hunt building, I think 90% of the workers are from Bangladesh.
Yes, that's right.
2 weeks ago, I was in Kandau. Was it 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago? There's been extensions being done to the hospital there. All the workers are from Bangladesh. So there's a shortage of workers here, but there's also unemployment. So, and this is not a new problem. I grappled with this too when I was a minister. So we have labor supply, but not labor supply that has the required attributes. Some of these companies that are taking workers from Bangladesh, they say it's because on Monday they all turn up to work. And if the pay happens on Thursday, on Friday, they still come to work. So it's not just the ability, it's the productivity, the work ethic. Some of it is the technical skills, the technical ability. All of these things need to be brought up to par.
We're seeing more indiscipline in schools, fights, drug use, students walking out of class. The other day, the Fijian Teachers Association said that students is throwing things at the teachers, not listening, swearing. During your time, it definitely did not happen at this point, at this level. During my time, it didn't happen.
During my time when I was in school?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
When you were a teacher, definitely nobody dared to throw something at you.
No, they still threw. I mean, children will be children.
Yeah.
And,
how did you deal with it?
Well, at that time, I was not a professionally trained school teacher. When we came out during that time, when you don't have anywhere to go as a job, you go
become a teacher.
We did. And of course, the ones that were trained in education, they got promoted, and you just use that as stopgap measure before you jump to other areas. But there were always rules in place. We did have corporal punishment. I remember when I was a school teacher in Lomeri, we had a principal that asked me to mete out the corporal punishment. Now, whether that worked all the time, people of our generation believe that it did. I mean, I still have the scars on my legs of being hit. Whether it changed me and I became a better person because of it, or sometimes it can also emotionally scar you, and the impact of that can have ramifications on your life for the rest of your life. We can then impact on your own children also, the way you treat them. So, corporal punishment or no corporal punishment, and I think we signed up to the, the CRC, is it? Convention of the Rights of the Child, and these things also impact on us. I think there's a lot of debate on it. For me as a Christian, the Bible says use the rod, but use it sparingly. Some people use it for anger rather than discipline. There's a distinction between anger and discipline. Some people like to think my anger is discipline. No, it's not.
You're giving me quite an academic answer. From your point of view,
yeah.
we saw this coming because it just didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
What can we do now?
Oh, I'm not an expert in these things.
The main issue here is the clock is ticking.
I think we have to go back. The discipline in schools has really deteriorated. Whether that's a function, whether people say because you don't have corporal punishment, some people say that's because you don't have corporal punishment, that's why that's happening. I'm not too sure that that's true. Maybe it's also because of poor systems of maintaining student discipline. I know of some very successful families where they never hit their children, but the children are well disciplined. Maybe we can learn from them. We can find good best practice of how people get people to be disciplined. In our own families, I know some of my children are disciplined, some are not. I'm a person that has daughters. All my children are daughters. I never hit them, but I was hit. You get your corporal punishment when you were a child. I can't really say that my children are more disciplined than I was at that age because of the different experiences that we had. I don't have any answers to it, but I think it's something that we really need to think about as a country and revisit, because a lot of people, even in religious circles, they talk about bringing back corporal punishment. It's something that those that are experts in that area will really need to delve into.
Now, there's also an issue about parental neglect. There's a lot of children being raised in circumstances where they eventually go off track. Would you support stronger laws to hold parents accountable?
No, there are. There have been, I think, the Child Care and Protection and the Child Justice. These laws have made parents accountable for it. And, children, like I for one, my own experience, I was brought up by a single mother. Single mother in the situation. My mother was basically a house girl in the Domain area. And, brought up through that sort of a system where you depend on a single mother. Eventually she got married. Then I was brought up in that particular family, living in settlements, living in the Wakensla settlement in Kalambu, living in my father, my stepfather, who brought me up, worked in FEA, so we were brought up also in the FEA barracks in Kinoya. Kinoya area was not a pretty rough area. But we had difficulties, but over time we managed to improve ourselves, or through the grace of God, maybe through prayers and the work of other people that we interacted with, we were able to do well. I went to education overseas and scholarship and got kicked out because I lost track of what I was supposed to do and did the wrong thing. Thank God I came back. There were people around to encourage you, to pick you up again, do another degree, and eventually became a minister and now a member of parliament. So I think we do have religious networks, family networks, these sorts of things. And even though the difficulties are there, can help our religion, the principles of religion, and the people that are in our churches, in our mosques and temples, whatnot. There is a resource there that can be used to keep on molding people's character for the better.
How difficult it was for you being raised by a single mother, and I'm sure you appreciate a single mother would have done a lot for you.
Yeah, I
as you sit here tonight.
Yeah, I appreciate her. She's gone now. I appreciate that, but I appreciate also the family in which my mother got then married into. That's why people think, some people think I'm from Laos, some people think I'm Kandavo. My stepfather raised me from Kandavo. I speak Kandavo dialect better than I speak Lawan. That's the way that I am. So I regard myself as both. But we're thankful for both. We're thankful for your mother. You're also thankful for all those that were involved in your upbringing, various parts, you know? Like my family, my Kandavo family, been very instrumental. My children are more at home with my Kandavo family. That's what they've been brought up to, you know? You get what I mean, eh?
Yes,
There's various elements they combine. Your mother's prayers, the church that I belong to. I'm a Methodist from Wakansla in Colombo. I still go to that church even though I live elsewhere, because for me it's a second home. It's a nurturing environment for me. I'm at home with it, like my kids to go there, my grandchildren, and now my first great-grandchild.
It's quite an achievement, Mr. Usamate, rising from there and then reaching leadership. As a great-grandfather, I think you made a mistake by saying you were great-great-grandfather, right?
Only one.
You're still in waiting there. The drug crisis is now on everyone's lips. Meth and other hard drugs are in our communities, even schools. People are selling drugs in schools, you know that. From your perspective, why did Fiji allow it to get this bad? What did you do? And where do you think we all, and you may have failed?
I think the drug problem has been growing for a long time. And we are located in an area where drugs were going to go through where we are, as a transshipment point and so forth. There was a lot of work that was done during that time. I remember when the current Minister for Policing was still Commissioner of Police, he did a lot of work in this area, talking about Narcotics Bureau, separation of roles from the police itself to separate bodies, the need to boost up our relationship with international bodies, our relationship with Australia and New Zealand. A lot of that has been happening for a long time. I think it's been strengthened once more under this government with the relationships they have with the countries around us in terms of we lack the resources, our borders are very porous. I was reading one post recently by, I don't know who it was posting about it, was talking about 13 or 14 people, guys that have recently been gone to prison. They were able to get that 4 point, whatever it is, tons of amphetamine through Fiji, even with the resources that we have. And then over time we hear about I have a sinking feeling that these 4 tons that we caught, that there's more to it that has been not caught. And I think there's been a lot of, the amount of volume of it has increased. Maybe over time the previous government did try to address it to the best of its ability. Maybe did how well it has done. People can make their own assessments. This government is now in this case in Fiji, where it's reached the highest level. I'm also in the church where I am involved in. In my church, I'm also looking after Bainimarama, which is social welfare of kids. Big problem that we have in our area was glue sniffing for primary schools. Now they're talking about having the marijuana there for the small kids and even for ice coming on. But it's important for the bodies that were there in that particular community. We have worked together with the police and all of these things at that particular level to be able to try to address it. But it's an ever-growing problem, and I think it is something that can't be just addressed by government. The religious bodies have to work at it. I think my friend, the Honorable Corporal, says that traditional leaders have to work on it. Community leaders, church groups, religious groups, you all have to work on this, because it's just getting worse and worse.
The issue in relation to the court ruling that was done for Justin Ho and others, interestingly, High Court Judge Justice Aruna Aluthge also pointed out in relation to collusion. Compromised police officers was highlighted. That's why the raid that actually took place in Nandi was done by the team from Lausori.
I read that.
And this is not hearsay, it's all from the actual court ruling. But it also highlighted about some of the former cabinet ministers who may have been close to these characters. One actually, it was mentioned, opened a business for Justin Ho, a barber shop. This links up some people in a certain way. It was said in a court ruling. What do you have to say about it, that if there may have been some people compromised in the previous government as well?
Well, I say, if anybody's been involved in drug business, they should be taken to task, if you can come up with the evidence. But if you have a barber shop and I'm a minister for small business, and you invite me to come and open up your barber shop, and I don't know that you have a drug business on the side, and my coming, because I'm the minister for small business, to open your barber shop, is because I'm the minister for small business. It does not mean that I'm there to support your illegal dealings on the side. So if really, I think my thing would be, if people have really been doing it, they need to be taken to task. But just by associating, because somebody goes and open a business, does not mean that he supports the illegal business that that person may be doing, that the minister going to do that opening does not know anything about. So there's a lot of supposition that happens there. If there's a proof that he was actually involved in the drug business, then he should be taken to task.
You're watching Fiji Village Straight Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan. We'll be back after this break.
Oh my gosh! Oh, what's in the box?
You're probably wondering, what's in the box? Well, if you must know, it's actually me. Before you call the police, I'm actually an app. The all-new Fiji Village app. Here's an update. See what I did there? I gave you an update. What's new? Well, for starters, I look different. My new layout also comes with stories if you're looking for something short and sweet. I will bring you the latest news on the dot so you stay updated. You're welcome. You don't have to go anywhere for content because I bring the content to you. Not only can you listen to your favorite radio stations, you can also watch online video content. Which reminds me, do you love sports? Well, guess what? With the Fiji Village app, you can stay up to date with your favorite sports and scoreboards, no matter where you are. Your #1 news website just got better with an app. Download and get updated now.
Welcome back. You're watching Fiji Village Straight Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan. Our guest tonight is Opposition MP and former FijiFirst Minister, Mr. Jone Usamate. Mr. Usamate, HIV/AIDS is a major concern. What does this say about the lack of public health campaigns? We've had now a growing issue also in relation to more cases coming through injectable drugs as well. Why was there not so much focus on it compared to now?
Well, I think there was a lot of focus on HIV and AIDS for a long time. And in fact, the numbers have gone down. But what has been shocking has been the rapid explosion. You know, I think in the Pacific for a long time, Papua New Guinea was the #1 country in terms of growth of HIV and AIDS. And in the recent stats we saw that Fiji has surpassed in terms of per capita basis. That was me for quite shocking. And as you said, I think it's a reflection of this Bluetoothing and whatnot that they do, you know, using injections and syringes and sharing the blood for one another. So there was a question asked to the Minister for Health in the Parliament earlier this year, where they are regarding it as something very serious. It's almost like a, what do you call it, epidemic or whatever you call it. And they have a lot of work cut out for them to be able to address things. But there's two things. It's not just the public health thing, it's also this drug issue. So this drug issue has now compounded the impact on the health. So in order to address these things, you need to strengthen your public health issues with what they're doing, but the other agencies also that are responsible for drugs, they need to be able to do their work well because it impacts on the health issue. So I think for all of us, we need to all see what we can do. Minister for Health has got his work cut out for him, and for the agencies that deal with the amount of drugs that are in the streets and the people using them, and also for us as families that we have children to get them to steer them away from all of these drug use. And the other question that we have to ask ourselves is, why are people turning to drugs? Obviously it is probably they're trying to get some relief from something else in society, in families and so forth, and that's another area. So that is something that we discuss a lot in our own church for instance? Why is it that we have this in our community? We need to be able to address it. So it's very, I've listened to the Minister of Health explanation of what they're trying to do. I think it was in the last session of Parliament or the one before that. And he has a detailed strategy to address it. And I think for all of us, we wish him well. And we need to make sure that we as a community can pitch in whatever way we can.
The other one is sexual and gender-based violence that continues to rise. We have one of the highest rates in the world, despite tougher laws. Do you believe the problem lies with weak enforcement? How much more we need to do because this is quite deep in our society?
Yeah, it's very quite deep in society. I know in the church that I'm a member of, the Methodist Church, there's been a drive, a concerted drive to address this, to be able to get the normal way in which people have thought about women. In Itoke culture, for instance, there's been a concerted attempt to get through that and to change the way people think about it. And I think it's incumbent upon us that lead families to try to get this in at the family level. For me as a grandfather to be able to teach it to my children. I have daughters, so if there's anything that happens to women, I feel it because all my children are daughters. And to be able to get that teaching across to them, for it's not okay for anybody to engage in gender-based violence, whether it's physical, whether it's verbal, whether it's online. And I think there's other things that we need to strengthen, this online
safety commission.
Online safety commission. I know there's been a lot of talk about it, its functions. The new Minister for Information wanted to take it over. I don't think that's possible under the way that it's set up, but whatever it is, all of these things impact on how people feel and how people see things. And now, today, you have all these AI and these bots, and they just change people's perception of what is reality. A lot of people get their news from social media. They think that whatever they read in the social media is right. When they see a photo of somebody doing something, they always think it's an actual person. But you have deep fakes and all of these happening around the world. And recently I saw in the papers, was it the news? Somebody is suing AI or somebody GPT for their son or daughter hanging himself because the bot was teaching them how to do it. That's the danger that we have in all of these things. Maybe all of these influences, there's been a lot of concerted work in this country to reduce gender-based violence. But because it's still there, I think the only thing that I can do, in where I have an influence in terms of my community, my church, my extended family, to be able to do the best that I can there, to try to change people's perceptions.
Some say our young people are losing touch with culture, language and values. Do you think, or do you believe we are neglecting tradition in the name of modernization over the last 20 years?
To some extent, yes. I think in some of our young now feel that if they speak English all the time, it makes them look, I don't know, a bit more hip or into it or all of that. And I mean, sometimes some of us parents do that all the time. When you find something difficult to be able to explain in our own vernacular, we explain it in English because it's easier for us to get the ideas across. But there is a challenge for us to be able to retain our culture and our traditions. And I tell my children, if you can't speak Itoke, you can't speak Kandawan or Lawan, you're not from Kandawa or Lao.
That's an issue for even the Itoke structure, to understand that structure. And secondly, now we see many times, on many occasions, when we are going to even a funeral gathering, etc., when we have to do a presentation, we find it harder and harder to find people who can do the presentation on behalf of the group. Yeah. The learning is fading away. It's sad, actually.
It's a sad thing.
Why do you think that has happened?
It's a sad thing because the way people learn these things traditionally, that you are there. You have to be there to watch it being done over and over again until it becomes something that you can do. Then you try it out. And because in the past, I think people didn't have many distractions. We didn't have these things. When you wanted to go and watch a movie, you collected your Nestle wrappers and come down to the movie and get the free movie. It was a once in a week thing. Now you have these things there constantly. They're taking people's attention away. You get your culture by being infused in it. Going to the civil service, going to the weddings, going to the funerals, listening to the words, understanding what's happening and absorbing all of that. And in some cases, in my Kandavu family, we had a time when we used to get our youth together and we taught them how to make representations and how to accept it. But I think we lapsed a bit. We need to
do more of that.
We need to revive that with the
parents,
youth,
as communities. Do you think we should do it in schools too? You've been
Oh yeah, I think in a lot of the bigger schools they do it well. Last night I was a guest with the Naitasiri students at USP. They had a cover battle thing, and because I'm raised up in Wakansla, which is part of Naitasiri, I think they invited me there. And I was glad when they did. They did, they accepted it. Somebody accepted it on my behalf. And when I left, that guy did my Itatau, the other guy. I was really glad to see that at USP. It took years being able to do that.
Race relations in Fiji always been a sensitive issue. The FijiFirst at times, you said it ensured there's unity and based on what it had in the constitution, etc. But it also has been blamed by some to play the race card as well and create fear. It came out in the 2022 elections. If you look at where we are today compared to 20 years ago, what do you say about race relations?
I think FijiFirst had a lot of emphasis on this, and I think that is one of the reasons why they did what they did during that time, 2006, which I was not a part of up until 2012. There was a focus on making everybody see themselves, or for all of us to value ourselves as equally as Fijian, with rights to be able to serve, follow whatever religion that you have your rights. That was the strong focus. That's why we were everybody called the Fijian, without diminishing an Itoke rights as in Itoke or Tuman or Rambi, whatever. Or protect the minorities. That emphasis was there, and I think for a long time it was very strong. Some of the sentiments, what I fear, I think a lot of these things are being fanned on social media. If I for instance, I will make a post about something or make a statement, and the kind of replies that I get, I just tell my children, don't read that kind of comments. They are really like very, very bad. So when I hear about the things that are happening, the stoning of temples and all of these things that are happening, I think a lot of it is coming from social media, because a lot of people spend a lot of time in social media. It has an impact. If it is possible for us to try to, I don't know whether it's possible to be able to regulate social media to an extent where you can cut this down. I'm not too sure that is possible. But somehow I think most of it is coming from social media, the way that people think about others. And I've seen a rapid rise in this over the past 2 years. When we were talking about this constitution, when you talked in favor of the rule of law, when looking at the constitution, my Itoke people really, a lot of them will come and swear online at me. That is really, really bad. They see us as, I don't know what their thinking is, but some of the comments that have come from my friends that I know, people that I know are also Christians, and what they say about other races has been very disappointing. Not disappointing, shocking for me. And I think it's all coming from this heightened thing in social media. I think that's where it's all coming from. But then, does social media reflect the perceptions of the majority, or just a few that are very vocal? That's another issue to consider.
You are part of the group that is planning to form a proposed People Party?
People First.
People First Party. You are rebranding, looking at a new political movement based on what you are doing, and I just will ask you whether your political movement will be a real challenge to the current government, and do you see yourself as a leader for the next chapter, as one of the leaders, and is your role now more about guiding younger politicians as well?
I think all of that. I think if we are, yes, as you said, we are in the process of, as our leader of the opposition, and the person that is leading us, Honorable Inyosara, to admit a statement that we are looking at forming a party. We have now a proposed name. We're collecting the signatures. We're getting all the requirements on the way, the constitution, the office bearers, and all of these things, and we'll be submitting it for the party. We do a party. Why do you form a party? Because you believe that some of the things you believe in is something that is essential for the development of our country. If you think that some of the things that people are saying is not what Fiji needs, then you have an alternative view, you present that option. At the end of the day, the choice will be the people's. Then your job is to be able to convince the people. So whether our hope is that our party will be able to gather enough support. Once it's registered, it's still a proposed party. Once it's registered, then it becomes a party. That we'll be able to gather enough support to be able to maybe run the government. If not, if we are still in opposition, then we carry out that role to the best of our abilities. For me, in particular, we have a leader at the moment, a leader of the opposition. At the moment is currently the person that is designated leading us in this approach when it comes to running the party in the future. I'm 63 now. If I come back, I probably have one more term in Parliament. After that, I'll be moving on, getting close to 70. My children, my grandchildren take me, you need to cool off, spend more time with us. There are other things to do in community. And if that's the case, then the idea for me would be to nurture people to be able to take over and lead it to the next step. I think we need more young minds to come in. In the current Parliament, you see most of the young people that are there are the people that are from outside, for the form of FijiFirst MPs. A lot more of the older people on the other side. We need a good blend. We also have the problem of not enough females in Parliament, not enough women. So we need to bring that up because they bring an alternative perspective. Perspective of the young, perspective of the women, combined together will give a better overall perspective that will allow this country to move forward.
Mr. Usamate, as we finish off tonight, we've discussed a lot of issues, a lot of national issues that continue to affect our people who are watching out there or listening out there. A lot of issues where at times, the blame squarely goes to the former government when people say, okay, you didn't do enough for me. You were saying you tried your very best. As we finish off tonight, what do you have to say to the people?
I think it's people can make all kinds of statements. It's very important to glean out what is a statement without looking at facts and figures. If you looked at facts and figures in terms of infrastructure growth, in terms of bringing stability to the country, 9 years of consecutive growth during the FijiFirst, that is gone now. We are now in the process of the situation that we are in now. We're seeing what's happening in Fiji, the good things, the bad things, and people need to make the best choices for the future. As I said, I'm a part of the group that's putting together a new party. We will be able to come up and offer what we have to offer. It will be then for the people to choose at the end of the day what they think is the best for them, for their children, and for the future generations of this country.
It's Opposition MP and former FijiFirst Minister, Mr. Jone Usamate. Thank you again for accepting our invitation.
Thank you.
And that's the show for tonight, and we will join you again in the next fortnight.